From One of One Production Studios, broadcasting from NYC, you are listening to Unexpected Success with your host, Joy.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Unexpected Success. And in the studio today, we have Nicole DeVincentis, founder of Glowtox NYC, an aesthetic dermatology practice in New York City. And Nicole is also a board certified PA who specializes in aesthetic dermatology. So happy to have you here.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
I'm so happy to have you here. So I consider Nicole a complete genius because she started an aesthetic dermatology practice at the height of this face body enhancement era. I need to know, like, who came, like, in your dream and, like, whispered in your ear, like, go into this area.
I just have balls. You know.
Well, thank God for your balls, right? So, I mean, what foresight, though? Seriously, what foresight?
I've always been crazed about skincare.
Okay. And you should see, I mean, and so we're going to post pictures of you. Your skin is flawless.
Oh, thank you. If it's not flawless by now,
right,
with all the years in the business, nobody's skin is going to be flawless.
Right.
Thank you. So I've always had a love for it. I didn't go into it directly out of school. I did emergency medicine first.
Okay.
And I think a lot of it probably had to do with when I was young, I had acne. And so I became
so impossible to tell.
Thank you, Accutane. But it became like a passion. I just was obsessed. So it's just always been there.
Yeah.
And it took me a while to get there, into medical derm.
Yeah.
It took a good maybe 10 years of doing other stuff.
Okay. So where are you from?
I'm from Queens.
Who are you? Hey, I'm from Queens also.
Forest Hills.
I'm from Far Rockaway. Ow.
That's like neighbors.
I know. I actually went to Townsend Harris High School, and I used to always go through Forest Hills.
I went to Prep, St. Francis Prep.
Oh my goodness, we're competitors.
Uh-huh.
Oh, that's so great. I love it. Okay, so you went to St. Francis Prep. Did you always know you wanted to go into the medical field?
So I, very artistic person, and I loved painting. I like fine art. And in high school, I was going to apply to art school. And I was naturally gifted at science. And my mom, beautiful, smart, genius woman, was like, that painting thing is great, but I think you should focus on something that we know you can make a living on. So I ended up...
It's so interesting. I'm sorry not to cut you off, but I just think a lot of times parents... creative arts is not necessarily like, they
nobody's psyched about that.
Right. They're like, oh, that's cute. That's a nice hobby.
Right.
So which is good in your case, because then you went into medicine.
Exactly. And now I'm able to, kind of do artistic things in medicine, which is
right.
I'm thrilled.
So you married the two sides. You married the, the academic science side of you to your creative arts in aesthetic dermatology.
Exactly.
So take us through that road. So you go to St. Francis Prep. I looked you up. You went to St. John's. I went to St. John's Law. So you went to St. John's, and then you went to...
I went to Stony Brook first.
Oh, you did? Okay.
And Stony Brook, I was just, having fun and playing around and doing crazy things.
I visited Stony Brook a few times. I had good times there.
Yeah,
so.
It was a fun time.
Right.
And then I transferred to St. John's, realizing, like, I need to just be not with 400 people trying to learn organic chemistry. Like, I need to be small. So I went to St. John's, and from there, I did amazing. My dean, guided me through everything. I think when they took me, he was like, let's see where this goes.
Yeah.
He didn't want to let me into the program. And then I got an award for having the highest GPA in my major.
Holy cow.
And I just blew him away. Like, he was like, please go to medical school.
Oh.
And I was like doing pharmacy, actually. And I said, no, I don't want to be married to my career. I'm going to get married young and have kids. And so that didn't happen.
Okay.
So he said, check out being a PA. And I was like, that sounds so derogatory. Like, what is that? Like bedpans?
Yeah. Right.
And he said, no, go shadow one of my PAs at the hospital and see what goes on.
Yeah.
And this guy was running the surgical unit. I was like, okay. So we settled on PA.
Okay.
And
Which did not require medical school.
No. So it now is mostly a master's 6-year program. At the time, it wasn't. It was 4 years. And then, you could go on to do something else. I have a master's just in public administration that has nothing to do with anything.
Okay.
That's another story. Okay. But that's how that happened. And I was like, wow, this seems like a nice profession. I'll do this.
Okay. And what led you to, so you said initially you started in emergency medicine. So you were doing PA in emergency rooms, is that right?
Exactly. So,
Okay.
During my clinical year, it's like a year of residency, so to speak. You go through all different departments, and the director, Dr. Jane O'Shaughnessy, amazing woman, she offered me a position. Like, when you graduate, I want you to come work here. And I didn't have any interest in it, but I took it to be like, this is going to be like my residency. Like, I'm going to learn everything.
Right.
And I did that for 4 years.
Wow, 4 years.
I did that for 4 years, and then I went into forensics and at the ME's office here.
Whoa.
And I did that. It was an elective of mine as well. I loved it. I thought I was going to go into the FBI. So
Who are you? This is amazing.
So I was like, let me try this and see, if this will be good. I love the investigative part of it, and it was great. I spent 5 years there. I did extensive work on 9/11. Unfortunately, it was during that time.
Oh, wow.
So I spent 3 years doing the identification process of all those pieces. Wow. But that was rough. That was really rough. But the main part of that job was very interesting. Just, things that happen.
Right.
And
so you're doing that work, and then what led you to getting into?
So I got a little burnt, working 4 to 12s, working midnight to 8.
And the subject matter,
of course,
I would imagine is a little bit depressing.
Yeah,
right.
That was a little rough. And I said, I'm gonna just take some time off and figure out what I want to do.
So I'm assuming you must have money to do that, right? Because so for the listeners who's kind of like they wanted something to do but they need money, right?
Right.
So how do you take time off and just kind of decompress?
So as a city employee, I worked so much overtime on the 9/11 stuff.
Yeah.
They couldn't pay me any more money because I capped out whatever that salary is.
Right.
So I had to accrue time. So I had so much time banked because we worked 100 hours a week in that initial process.
Right.
I just had time. So I took off the time, and I'm like, I want to sell real estate. I'm obsessed with real estate.
Oh my God. I love how you just go in different directions.
I wanted to do something non-medical, and I have never sold anything in my life. So I was like, I want to just see, do I have this? I don't know. I love real estate. I could just watch those shows all day long.
HGTV.
Love it.
Me too.
So I did that, and I wanted to get a broker's license, which, you have to put a little time in and sell a certain amount of stuff. Brooklyn, my office was in Dumbo. Brooklyn, new construction was booming, 2006.
Oh, it's perfect.
It was like, Mom, I sold another one. Oh my God, the next day, I sold another one.
My goodness.
It was just, you didn't have to even do anything.
So you were a natural.
I was a natural, I guess, but the market was definitely in my favor.
Have you ever failed, Nicole? It just sounds like you're winning. You're just winning,
I have yet to find a husband. So I don't know if that's winning or losing, but.
Well, yeah, it depends on who you ask.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so real estate was for 2 years. And then I waited and waited and waited for my entry to dermatology, which takes a lot of time.
Oh, it does. Okay. So why does it take a long time? What does that mean?
So the East Coast, very flooded with PAs. I don't even know how many PA programs now. And where I would fall 10 years into a career, not that I wasn't willing to step back a little bit, but
where you would fall in terms of what you needed to make.
Yeah.
Right.
And just finding the right person, that this profession can become a little bit like you are going to earn somebody's practice and they're never going to be there. And they pay you nothing.
Right.
That happens a lot. And that is ultimately what happened with the first person I worked with for a few years. And I made him a few $1 million and made nothing. And then I just walked away and said, okay.
Yeah.
I can do this somewhere else differently.
Right, exactly.
And then here I am.
So, okay. You had to wait until you could get into dermatology.
Yes.
You actually basically work for free, right? So it's a common narrative. It's like working for free. You didn't know you're working for free, but
Right.
ultimately that's what you ended up doing.
Yeah,
And you learned the
exactly.
business, right?
Yes.
You learned the business. You saw the tricks, you saw what he did, and you made him a ton of money.
Yes. This was medical dermatology, though, keep in mind. So this was insurance. This was seeing 40 patients a day type thing. This was,
I see.
a great, wonderful career. I enjoyed seeing children. I enjoyed my adolescence. I enjoyed, doing biopsies and that kind of stuff. But he didn't have any cosmetic. So he didn't have any aesthetics. And he didn't care about it. So I went off and...
And you knew that's where you wanted to be.
I knew that I wanted to see if I had a skill at that.
Okay, now what year was it?
Let's say that's probably 2010.
So this is like
can't be.
after
2000, maybe like the end of 7.
Okay.
Almost 2 years in real estate.
This is before, the economy went in the tubes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So then you leave him and then...
So I stay with him.
Okay.
And on the side, I go and work in med spas all over the place where I'm seeing like 20 patients a day. And no supervision. It was like, oh, you got lips now. I was like, I've never done lips before. They were just like, well, I mean, do them, it was that kind, like
So
a random med spa on Upper
Did
East
you
Side.
know what you were doing? Or
No.
were you...
No, I had some training, but I mean,
No, but I mean, seriously. So here it comes, someone walks in, first pair of lips you have to do. I mean, you're nervous.
Of course, it took me like an hour.
But the person was happy.
She was happy. Yeah,
She was happy. She came back.
She came back. She came back.
And so the great part about aesthetic dermatology, right, is that you have repeat. And people come back.
So a lot of my existing patient base right now is from that actual med spa. Wow. Like they're with me all these years. That's
10 years.
Yeah.
Okay. So at what point do you leave this guy?
So after I'm doing this and I'm realizing I have a skill, I'm good at it. People are like wanting me more time, more places. I say like it's time to go with him and we'll figure it out. And then I almost at the same time, like the universe is helping me. MERS, which is I work for MERS North America as a trainer for 4 years full time.
Okay.
They offered me that position. So it's corporate. I've never done that before. It's not a common in medical world.
Right.
And I was like, I can't pass this up either. This is like a learning opportunity for me because I'm teaching, the best in the business. And I still do it on the side. I still consult with them.
You do? Okay.
Which I love because I'm in offices every week and I just see everything. And it could be like just the way they run it. It doesn't have to be medical information, but I learned something.
Right.
Every time. So I love it, but I did it full time and I got pregnant the year I was hired for that. And, just being a mom and traveling and corporate is like they own you.
Yes.
And that was just a little rough for me. So I stuck it out for 4 years and I loved it. It was a great experience, but it just,
Which is great also. Your corporate job, you have a new baby.
Yeah.
They support.
Right.
Perfect timing. You're not working for yourself yet. You can
Exactly.
kind of coast.
Right.
I hate to say it like
I
that.
had benefits.
Right.
I had my car. I had
Perfect timing.
Yeah.
And so you leave that job when your daughter is 3.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I left kind of not in the best way. I left because they expanded my territory to include all of Pennsylvania. And I already had a big piece of Jersey. So that was going to mean I was going to be away for a week, a month.
Right.
And I just wasn't willing to do that. Also, I mean, that's just not something that was even thinkable.
Right.
So I resigned and I just said, I'm going to figure it out. I don't know what I'm going to do. I still had my patients, don't forget, on the side. But it was by no means a full-time world. And I gave up, as you're aware, all these benefits.
All
and
these
I just
perks.
said,
So you decide to just go it on your own. Like you're gonna take a risk, take a chance on yourself, go for it. You don't want to do the corporate. You don't want to have to travel and be away from your child for weeks on end as you go and work for this corporation. And so you just take us through your entrepreneurial path.
So then I was like, okay, here I am. I have patients. Where am I going to see them? Am I going to rent an office now? Am I going to, be in one place? I have, a few different options. In New York State, PAs can't own a business physically, even a med spa. It happens all the time. There's plenty of people that do it, but I want to sleep at night. This is my career.
Right.
So I have to be affiliated with a physician, and as the story always goes, that physician usually takes everything.
Of course.
So finagling and just building relationships with people, and because I was a trainer and I knew people in a little bit of a different capacity than just like calling somebody up and saying, hey, I want to kind of use your space.
Yeah.
Because there is that rental space thing that goes on, and a lot of these people do that. It's
Yeah.
not legal though. So because of that, I ended up working for some derms and some plastics. And had a great
Plastic surgeons.
plastic surgeon, sorry. And it worked out great. And I kind of had an uptown office, a downtown office, which I loved. A Staten Island practice, which I still have, and I don't think I'll ever give up.
Now, do you live in Staten Island?
No.
You don't? Okay. All right. But you travel there because you have it's a good customer base there?
Because I did my training there, and I just have a,
nostalgic.
Yeah, I
connection.
have a thing with it, and they're so easy, and they're just down to earth.
Awesome.
Nice. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So that's once a week. So I'm all over the place, but I've tried to have an uptown and a downtown office. And maybe about 3 years ago, I decided to give up the uptown office just for me living in Brooklyn and,
right.
Running around all the time. I found a happy place in the West Village. It's easy for me to get to. And then I decided, okay, I have to kind of brand myself now, because it's not like this business entity as a building that you're going to come and see, me at Glowtox NYC. It's
right.
me, the person, and I'm going to be in different places and just have several locations. So that's kind of how I do it.
Okay. So I guess, like you said, there's tons of physician assistants out here, right? Tons of PAs. What advice would you give them? Because clearly you figured it out. You have, multiple locations. You reached out to a number of offices. You're working out of those offices. You've built, I'm sure, a substantial book of business. What kind of advice? Because this podcast is just to inspire, right?
Sure.
Is it possible for someone who is perhaps filing papers right now to go to school and become a PA and then get into aesthetic dermatology? And what's that process? Would you recommend it? I guess just as a means, just advice.
So I think PA is a great career choice. NP is also a great career choice. And the only reason I have advise some people at the crossroads to do the NP if they're that early on,
right,
is because they have more legal binding. Like they can open their own practice eventually.
So NP can open their own practice and PAs cannot?
Correct.
That seems so...
It's just the lobbying power of RNs and nurses and, political a little bit. It's interesting because nurses are not trained as clinicians. They're trained as nurses. They take orders. They follow orders. They don't diagnose. And then they get a master's and they're learning how to do that. So PAs, we do that right from the beginning. It's two very different paths, but the master's portion of it is where they get that right. But if the person is already, bent on being a PA, I think it's a great choice. You'll have job security forever. But, I know PAs that are doing what I'm doing for the same amount of time, which is 20 years. We're out of school now.
Yeah.
And, they're making $75 an hour. I think that's crazy.
Right.
If you have a skill. So what I always recommend is to subspecialize and whatever, your passion is. And you become so valuable. So when I was doing medical derm, I know more about medical dermatology than a general practitioner, because dermatology is just out there.
Right.
So you become really valuable. And in terms of what I do, it's a craft, right? If I'm going to get my eyes done, I want an oculoplastic surgeon. That's an eye surgeon. It's an ophthalmologist that got plastic boarded in the eyes. Right. I don't want somebody who's doing breasts all day doing my eyes. Right. And just like if, or there's facial plastics, and those are ENTs that, ENT doctors, ear, nose, and throat, and then they got facially boarded in plastics. That's who I want on my face, So it's the same thing with injectables. You want somebody who does it all day long.
Right, exactly. You don't want anybody experimenting on your face. So what's the insurance? Is it expensive to basically do this type of work? So just from an insurance standpoint,
from malpractice?
For malpractice.
Yes. So I have an independent policy that I have had with me since the beginning.
Right.
And I think that's always the best way to go. It's an occurrence policy, follows you wherever. Many PAs will take their employers, and then when they leave, that policy is terminated for them. But if a case is brought, then they have to buy tail and
Right.
It's all this crazy stuff. So I recommend it's more expensive, but I recommend just have your own, and then you don't have to worry about it.
Right. Okay. So, are you happy? Do you love your work?
Oh my God. It's like so rewarding. It's empowering to people, first of all,
Right. So you're making people beautiful, or making them
confident. Is how I like to look at it.
Right.
And it could just be little stuff, it doesn't have to be anything major, but, if something is taking up that much brain space, fix it.
Right. Well, I'm going to stop by.
I think you should.
I'm going to stop by. So where can we find you? So we've had this whole discussion, and I've gotten caught a little bit carried away. Where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram.
Okay.
That's easy.
It's Glowtox NYC.
It's Glowtox NYC. And from there, you can go to my webpage, which will have...
that's GLOWTOX
yes.
NYC.
Yes.
Okay, on IG.
Right.
And where else?
NicoleDeVincentis.com.
Okay, and I'm going to... I'll make sure everyone has the correct spelling.
Right. I expect nobody to find me there. Right. But anyway, that's why Glowtox happened. It's also glowtox.com, so don't worry.
Okay. And I know you're very active on IG. So, and then your practice is down in the West Village right now, one of your practices.
Yes.
Right? And also in Staten Island. But anyway, the point is that people can find you, and we'll put all of your information on our social so they can find you.
Fantastic.
And so we've been so enjoyed this entrepreneurial story.
Thank you so much.
Of a PA, right?
I enjoyed it.
I know. So I'm going to stop by, and I'm not going to tell anybody what I'm doing.
Of course.
But thanks for tuning in to another episode of Unexpected Success with me. And you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, iHeart, YouTube, and Podbean. Please hit subscribe and leave a review once you've listened. I hope you enjoy it. Until next time, keep winning. Thanks for coming, Nicole.
Thank you.
This podcast was brought to you by 23DB Productions, ID Productions, and One of One Productions. For more information, go to Facebook and Instagram, Unexpected Success with Joy.